True nationalism in Africa looks like this.
We know.
In the United Nations Human Rights Council.
But the United Nations Human Rights Council, is it some god? Is it not a body that is composed of human beings who have created a body where some are permanent members and some are not permanent members? Remember, in matters of morality, numbers don't matter. It is the mores. You may disagree with me, but I'm telling you without batting an eyelid and unapologetically that some of us oppose LGBTQ, and you who are anchors, I'm now telling you, because I've seen it with other anchors from other parts of the world, you have a position and you want to impose on us. We refuse. Yours is to midwife, to ensure that my views, if others have a different view, you go and interview them. But from where I sit, I oppose LGBTQ with every ounce in my life.
And then, my friends, is Patrick Lumumba, who is a professor of law in Kenya and one of the well-known anti-corruption SARs in Kenya as well. He's a well-known Pan-Africanist, and believe it or not, he is on the way to South African shores later this month at the invitation of the EFF. And the reason why we like Patrick Lumumba is not because he's anti-gay, because we don't actually care too much about that, but he is a sovereign African. He believes the sovereignty of Africa is crucial, and that the Western forces around LGBTQ+2 whatever rights should not determine the outcome of this continent.
The problem is that when the West come to Africa, they basically then tell Africa that they should be more Western. They should follow certain programs of agendas.
The regime of rights which we are being asked to follow is a regime of rights that was imposed by the Western world in 1948, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. When the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was being initiated in Paris, no African country was independent. And at that time, they say the civil and political rights were the most important. Then they said that economic and cultural rights were important. Then they say development rights. Now they say all rights are interdependent and therefore they are universal.
This isn't the African way. Africa doesn't do it. So all Africa can do is assert its sovereignty, is to say to the West, this isn't for us. Keep your progressive ideas at home. Leave Africa to the Africans to be African. And he says all of us should take pride in our culture from our continent and not be forced to follow Western progressive ideals.
Sovereignty is the ultimate call for what Monishat wants to achieve in South Africa. And that starts, of course, with identifying who we are first. The one thing we are not is American. The one thing we are not is British or Australian or any other country in the world. We are South Africans, and we must define who we are first before we can actually do something about it.
Democracy is a competition of ideas, and I don't impose your ideas on you, and you don't impose your ideas on me. Those who think like that really are people who defy definition.
He's saying it because he believes that democracy requires a plurality of voices. Those voices allow differing of opinions. And what we find in the West is that we love to say we want a battle of ideas. We love to say we want multiple voices in the democratic sphere to say their viewpoints. But then we silence every voice that we don't agree with. That is not a battlefield of ideas. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a dictatorship of ideas. You either follow our ideals, you do what we say, or we sanction you into oblivion. And that is the straw that broke the camel's back.
When the white man came here and imposed laws on us, whether it's the common law or the Dutch Roman law, they told us at that time that there is something called sex against the order of nature. Has nature changed? So we must be very slow to personalize laws. We must be very slow. And these arguments that they bring about bills relating to LGBTQ, they'll never say them to the Arabs. They'll never go to Kuwait. They'll never go to Bahrain. They'll never go to Brunei. They'll never go to Saudi Arabia. They'll never go to Indonesia to tell them, It is Africans who they think are tails to be wagged. So on this issue, the government of the Uganda and the people of Uganda, I am with them 100%. There is no freedom outside of the law.
And it all goes down to sovereignty in terms of the sovereignty, for example, of the Arab nations, of the Asian nations. America doesn't go there and say, you will be LGBTQ friendly, otherwise we will impose sanctions upon you. Because, well, the Americans can't. Those people understand who they are, those people understand their leverage, and those people understand that they are very useful to America, as well as America being very useful to them. So there's none of this charity case that is happening in Africa. It is only in Africa, and in South Africa in particular, where we are told what to do by Americans and the EU and all those sort of things. We need to develop our own sense of identity first as a sovereign nation. And then, as we said before, pick a foreign policy that is South African first, whether we have to buy nuclear energy from Russia or cheap oil and gas from America or whatever the case might be. Those things cannot happen until we figure out exactly what South Africa is, who are South Africans, and what is in the best interest of South Africans as well.
The only person that's actually honest in his patriotism is probably Gates and McKenzie. But I don't think he's the only voice out there. I think Kenneth Mishwe of ACDP is also proudly nationalist. He's also proudly culturally African. And we support him in that. We did an interview with him prior. He had some very great ideas on what he wanted the future of South Africa to look like. So he is obviously worthy of support in himself. But unfortunately, outside of what we could describe as the current minnow parties, the minority parties, the major parties aren't very nationalistic, which is ironic because the African National Congress is not actually nationalistic. It's actually globalist captured. Unfortunately, the Democratic Alliance is also internationally captured. It becomes problematic in that none of them are unashamedly South African first, nationalistic. We want what's in the best interest of our people.
And as for Mr. Labumba, of course, he's coming to South Africa on behalf of the invitation of the EFF. So guess who has a huge problem with that? Glad you asked. It is Western-funded NGO-based publications like Ground Up, which has the money from all the usual suspects that we have spoken about before. And they are very, very angry that this well-known homophobic academic is coming to South Africa and is going to be talking at the University of Cape Town. So Ground Up, who once again has no democratic mandate, gets funded by international financiers, has a problem with a Pan-Africanist talking about sovereignty in Africa. The shamelessness of these people is really something to behold.
Did say during his interview something that I would wholeheartedly agree with. And that is when the interviewer attempted to do what most lamestream media tend to do, and that is interrupt him and try to stop him from giving his viewpoint, he said, hey, that's not your job. You don't come here and tell me your ideas. You come here to ask me mine. You don't have to agree with them, but you have to listen to them and report back what I said. If you don't like it, that's your choice. I'm not telling you to believe what I do, but you need to listen to what I have to say. And unfortunately, in this instance, the EFF are actually following that through. They don't agree with him. They don't want to follow his viewpoint, but they're giving him the platform in order to talk. And I must say, I wholeheartedly agree with that. I'm not supporting the EFF. I'm not voting for the EFF. But I do think that they're right in this instance.
Indeed. So the only question you have to ask is,
why are you gay?